Welcome, Murad, and welcome to Chamber Chat. You're our very first guest, and I couldn't be more happy to have you. I'm honored, actually, Murad.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
So let's get right into it. Tell me who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your company.
Well, I'm Murad Al-Katib. I'm a founder and president and CEO of a company called AGT Food and Ingredients, based here in Regina, and started the company 22 years ago, basement of my house here in Regina, with an idea to build a ag value-added processing company focused on lentils, peas, chickpeas, beans, and we've kind of grown the company and become something here in Regina.
Absolutely. But here in Regina and throughout the world, how big is the company in terms of employees? And you, I believe you have entities elsewhere too, right?
Yeah. So we're still headquartered here, which is something I'm really proud of, being that we started here. And so from me being the single employee back in 2001, we've got just under 3,000 employees now.
Wow.
And located in 20 countries around the world. So that small little manufacturing plant I built in Regina, right beside our head office, is the very first plant, and now we have 46 manufacturing facilities in Canada, the US, Australia, South Africa, Turkey, and Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan is the newest factory as well. So we've been involved now in kind of that transformation of agriculture in Saskatchewan and the Regina Plains, and it's been a really rewarding thing to see the evolution of how important agriculture has become in our economy.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of our economy here in Saskatchewan, and certainly for the city of Regina. People know who you are. You've been honored a few times throughout the years. Maybe you can tell us a few about a few of those honors.
Well, when people say, they know me, I always like to kind of go back to my roots. And, people assume, as an entrepreneur and, with a name like Murad Al-Katib, that I came here at some point. And
right.
I did come here at some point, but from Davidson, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, exactly.
So, born and raised in a small rural community. And, my parents came to Canada as immigrants back in 1965. So, my father came, for anyone from rural Saskatchewan, they know how important country doctors are.
Yes.
And so my dad came as a doctor. My mother came as a young bride, learned how to speak English watching Sesame Street with us kids. And in 1976, she was the first immigrant Muslim woman elected to a rural municipal council in Saskatchewan. So, in fact, we think in Canada. So, the RM of Wilner. So, I kind of came from a background of community leaders, jobs on Main Street. So, things like chambers of commerce and, the Association of Businesses was a very important entity and important topic, as a child growing up, where my mom, was the mayor of Davidson, during the time where, the wooden elevators were closing, the concrete elevators sites were being selected. And, I remember talks of, how do we build one more job in every, business on Main Street, and our community will survive, our school will survive, our hospital will survive. That's, the fabric of Saskatchewan has always been businesses. So that's where I come from, and, definitely been rewarding to be, at the time I was a young entrepreneur. And so, to kind of be 28 years old and start this little company and, along the way win a few awards, but really inspire someone to believe that you could start something right here and reach the world.
And you did, and congratulations on that. You must be very proud of your success. But the thing is, you're not done yet, right? You're still working on a lot of things. And tell us about some of the special projects you have, not only in Saskatchewan but elsewhere.
Well, I'm 51 years old now. Yeah. So, again, I kind of think about the last 20 years and think about the next 20 as, kind of a really exciting opportunity. And I think that, the opportunity for us in Regina and Regina Plains and in Saskatchewan is, really to transition our agriculture sector to, look at the opportunities in plant-based food and fuel and plant-based, fiber and biomass.
Right.
And so, what we're trying to do as AGT now is, kind of take the investments that we've made and really kind of drive innovation and opportunity. And so, some of the new projects that we're building in Regina, we built the first plant-based extrusion center in Saskatchewan. So that's to produce plant-based meat alternatives. So we're actually supplying pea, lentil, and faba bean-based texturized protein to the world. We're doing high-protein breakfast cereal, crisps, and puffs. now at a plant, over on Henderson and Leonard in the industrial area here in Regina. We've announced the project, in the collaboration with Federated Co-op on the production of renewable diesel from canola.
Yeah.
And we've announced the feasibility that we're doing on building a protein extraction plant for canola meal. So that, that again, I mean, those investments, it's, in my mind, it's not a matter of if they will get done, it's a matter of when will they get done. And those are, in the range of about $4 billion of investment for Regina. So, those are the kind of projects that kind of transform. And, what we think is the opportunity is everything we grow. So, wheat, canola, and pulses in a rotation have an opportunity to be value added and monetized. And how do we take the components of everything that we're doing in processing and use them to their highest value? So like we take the canola and we make oil and we produce renewable diesel with Federated.
Right.
Then we take the meal and we extract the protein and we make high protein aqua feed to go for shrimp, salmon, tilapia, and steelhead trout production. Well, that's a much higher value than just shipping it for dairy feed in the United States. So, those are the opportunities that I think are the next chapter, in the development of Regina. We're going to be a center for protein. We're going to be a center for ag innovation and manufacturing. And, I hope that our company will be a part of developing that.
Well, I'm sure it will be. I mean, the ag tech sector is something that I know EDR is working on, economic development in Regina. And of course, you were part of EDR for quite some time, were you not?
Well, I was. I was on the board for almost 14 years. And, definitely, I think that, one of our strongest relationships was always, EDR and the chamber.
Right.
So the Regina Chamber and the Saskatchewan Chamber. But, certainly, I've always felt that the Regina business community, in particular, at that time we had, of course, economic development and trade and tourism. But, on the economic development trade side, the industry side, the chamber and EDR always worked hand in hand.
Yes.
And I think that was always, one of our strongest things is we had a very unified voice in this city. If I look at maybe at Saskatoon at the time, there was, the, Saskatoon Regional Economic Development. There was the North Saskatoon Business Association. There was kind of a lot more fragmentation, whereas here, the business community was together and the chamber was always a big part of that. So, chamber's been an important part of our business too. I mean, things that people don't realize is we're an exporting company.
Yes.
And, every day our couriers, or in the beginning, even myself, I used to show up at the chamber office twice a week with my documents in my hand, and the Regina Chamber of Commerce would stamp my documents, my certificates of origin, my, all the documents I needed for export, because in the world, people recognize chambers of commerce as entities that have, legal status. They have, good governance.
Yes.
And their stamps mean something.
Yeah.
So for us, that was always important. I mean, I remember days of calling, John at the time, on Christmas Eve day, and to say, John, I need you to go down to the office and stamp a document for me.
And he would.
And he would.
Yeah,
so absolutely. Those were important
and that's the beauty of the city the size of Regina, is that you can still get that kind of service, right, from organizations like the Chamber.
For sure. And I think that, again, it's part of the, what I've always loved about the Chamber and the business community here is, you have large companies. I mean, I was a small startup at one point. I'm a larger company now, but you've got a camaraderie and a respect of every business in this community, and a recognition that that's what makes Regina. I mean, we are a city that for too long was known as a government city.
Yes.
And we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some incredible entrepreneurs here, and the economy here is changing in a big way.
Very diversified.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at great entrepreneurial families like the Semple family.
Yeah, exactly.
And myself and others who have built multi-billion-dollar businesses, and then you look at the service industry, and you've got long-standing brands, right? Companies that have been in business for decades in plumbing and heating and electrical and restaurants. I mean, look at why in Regina we don't have chains in downtown Regina, is because our restaurants have been around for decades, right? That's all important business.
Absolutely. And it's all about the job, isn't it? You've
Well,
said that many times.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I always have to remind politicians that, an economy ultimately, that the health of the Canadian way of life is based on healthy businesses contributing to our economy. So we have a tax base that can build infrastructure, that can support the social programs that we all value, like health and education. I say to people, you can't expect the Canadian way of life and say, not in my backyard for the economy. I mean, the economy is an important part of this. And, I want to be a responsible, ethical part of that so that people, want to support businesses and purpose.
Yes.
Profit and purpose are not at odds anymore in society. And I think that's the changing business evolution that I think is really important part of the future.
That's actually a great point because profit used to be a swear word in Saskatchewan, and it isn't anymore, where we applaud success like you've had in the Semples and others, right?
Well, and it's interesting as in my entrepreneurial journey, I've had lots of moments where I've struggled with profit and purpose. And I'll give you an example. I mean, we do so much with the United Nations, and today alone I'm dealing with the Gaza crisis and the Palestinian refugee problem, and how the United Nations is going to respond to millions of people that today don't have clean water and food. And, I would have kind of trouble in my head about the fact that we supplied this and we were actually making good money while we were doing it. And then I realized that, philanthropy is something different. I try to be philanthropic myself and my family, but profit and purpose, when they're aligned, it gives you the opportunity to do even more.
Yes.
I mean, I want to make money so that my shareholders and my stakeholders are happy and my business is healthy. And that gives me more ability to invest and do more and more on the reconciliation of profit and purpose. And, I don't think it's optional anymore.
No.
That those younger generation consumers coming, they have a demand of business that, social enterprises are not going to be a thing of the future. Every enterprise has to be a social enterprise in some form.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't survive. And I think that that's actually something that, as someone I'd characterize myself as a social conservative.
Right.
Which is in a way, some people think that's not a great term. I think it's a great term. I'm a free market and free enterprise person, but I believe strongly in helping those that are most vulnerable.
In a strong economy, strong businesses do help the vulnerable in our society,
Totally.
right?
I mean,
and I've always said that.
Well,
right?
and it's just part of the Saskatchewan way of life. I mean, you look at our volunteerism, you look at, the community causes that, large and small businesses in this province do. And it's something that, again, makes me proud to live here. It makes me proud to have my headquarters here. And people from the outside, when they come in, they're surprised at it, right? But yet it's a secret that we know already.
Yes, that's right. I like the fact that you've grasped and held on to the fact that community is important, right?
Well, it came from my upbringing. I mean, again, growing up in that rural community in a time where, we were in the race for the concrete elevators, and Davidson got 2 elevators at that time. I mean, that you don't shake that. That's kind of the fabric of who I am and how I was raised, and the passion of my mother and my father as community leaders. That's been the exciting part of the last few years for me, is reinvesting in Saskatchewan again. I mean, I did at the beginning, and then I went around the world and built my business.
Yeah. Now you're back.
And now I'm back, and I'm investing in short-line railways and new production facilities here, and creating new jobs here at our head office. I mean, I love that.
Yeah, it's exciting. So you roll down number 11, you go by Davidson, you see that on your, you help out with the arena there, which is a big part of that community, and that's got to make you feel good.
Well, it's interesting. The Community Skating Rinks program is something that we launched a number of years ago. And, I always say, growing up in rural Saskatchewan, that the skating rink, the curling rink, is the community center where you celebrate the wins of your hockey team, you cry about your defeats. The largest funerals and weddings are at that community center, right? It's a place that's the fabric of the, Saskatchewan culture and way of life. So to be able to provide some support to smaller rural communities, has been great. I think we've got around 11 skating rinks around the province that bear our name now. And, those are important things. So we try and focus a lot on kind of the pillars of health and nutrition. So the food banks are really important. And we've got a new program we announced called the Crop Exchange Program, where farmers can now deliver to our sites in Western Canada, and they can designate any portion of their delivery to the food banks of Canada. They get a tax receipt, and then we exchange that product for things they need, like pasta or sauce or canned beans or canned chickpeas, right? The food bank doesn't need 3 tons of yellow peas.
No.
They need the food that they can distribute for the needs they have. So that's an exciting program we just announced. And amateur sports, of course, is pretty important to us too. So, many know I'm a football guy.
Yeah, I wanted to go there, right? So
listen, we're big supporters of football and, minor football, junior football. So I'm the president of the Regina Thunder.
Yeah.
Proudly kind of made that a pretty well-known team in Regina now of 18 to 22-year-olds. And, the Co-op Refinery and us together have what we call the Thunder Acts of Community Kindness program.
Love it.
The boys go out and they do everything from volunteering at seniors associations to, picking garbage in ditches and uplands in our neighborhood. And those are the kind of things that are pretty exciting, along with a scholarship program for 57 full-time student athletes. So those are the kind of things that, you do to support sports as well. So nutrition, health, sports, and then mental health.
Yeah.
It's another area where we're working with the Sask Riders Foundation on the, the Community Mental Health Schools program. Those are important things to myself and my family.
And your and good on you. I love the fact that you really believe in that purpose piece. And so you spoke of family. Tell us a little bit about that. You have 2 children, right?
Yeah, I've got twins, Tarek and Sarah. They're 22, so they're both at the University of Regina. One's doing her master's, and my son is finishing up his business degree. And both have shown little interest in the business. In particular, my son, he's very interested. So we'll see how that goes. And,
good.
And again, I always say Regina is home for us. That's where everybody is, and I travel the world, but everybody stays here, and we're really happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you here, that's for sure. Murad, let's talk a little bit while we're closing up here. Our podcasts aren't that long, so we want people to actually get in and get out, right? So this has been fantastic, and thank you for this. Let's talk to the young entrepreneurs out there, he or she that's working on their business, and talk about the benefits of the chamber, but maybe some advice that you would give them.
I think that the one thing you've got to recognize in starting a business is that most people don't have the luck I had in that I succeeded in the very first venture I started. So resiliency and perseverance are going to have to be an important part of that. You've got to make sure you refine your idea, network. I mean, the chambers are a great opportunity to get to meet other entrepreneurs, support networks, that can really help your business. I tell young entrepreneurs, make sure it's not only passion and an idea, but there has to be capital behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that again, Tim Young from Young's Equipment always gave me advice as a young entrepreneur. And he said, Murad, cash is king. Well, again, I mean, Tim's used that in many speeches, and he's right. So again, get capitalized, be financially literate. Not everybody's an accountant, but you as an entrepreneur, if you don't know the ins and outs and the finances of your business, you'll never succeed. Exactly. You won't price it right. You won't know whether you're making money or not.
Yeah.
So, those are kind of, key, strong things that I tell young entrepreneurs is have passion, follow your heart, but don't forget about your head. So, make sure your brain is a part of grounding your idea and, go for it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's great advice. It's interesting that you talk about the basement of your Regina home and the genesis of that, and look to where you are today, Murad. Can you believe it?
Yeah, you know what? People ask me that question, and obviously any 28-year-old entrepreneur who thinks they're going to be the CEO of a $3 billion company is probably lying. So, I always believed I would succeed because, ultimately I was taking the power of agriculture in this province, the innovation of the farmers, right? The early adopters of technology,
Yes.
and marrying that to demand for protein in the world. And, with the shortage of land and water, I knew Saskatchewan was an important place. It's why, I studied at a big US MBA, and I still came back to Saskatchewan for my career because I knew there was opportunities here that I wouldn't get, on Wall Street or Bay Street or in London in the UK.
Yes.
So that's why I came back here in the first place. So, again, I knew there would be success. Did I imagine this? No. But, I'm still humbled by it. I've got a great team, great people, and we're not done yet.
And you're not done yet. And that's what I love about it, Murad. Listen, what a pleasure it has been for us, the Chamber here, to have you at our very first Chamber chat. And I hope that you'll come back again. Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being part of it. All right. All the best.
Thanks.
Chamber Chats is produced bi-weekly by Skycron as a service to the Regina business community. We produce many series, including the television series Go Nitro for NBC Sports, CBS, and Fox, as well as corporate videos, events, and live streams, all right here in Saskatchewan. We can do the same for you. If you have a video project for your organization, call us at 306-720-0097. And let's get started on your next project.